Hello again, my name's D. Campbell, RHIT. Welcome to another one of my quick video on demand trainings. Today's video is going to be on drug-induced reporting. In ICD-10, we have quite a few different codes that have drug-induced conditions to it. I ended up running a system of all the ICD-10 codes. Basically, I pulled CMS's Excel sheet, combined it with AMA sheet, and just searched for every drug-induced code. These are all the different drug-induced codes that explicitly say drug-induced. Well, there's other times that you can clearly combine it, like let's say drug-induced nausea, for example. There's not an exclusive code that specifically says drug-induced nausea, but if you use a T code plus R10 code, you will have drug-induced. How drug-induced guidelines work, though, that's commonly missed, is whenever you use any of these drug-induced codes, we have the clear guidelines that we must report a T36 through T50 code each and every time that we use it. You must code these in addition for it. So major common one of this is diabetes caused by drug or chemical. Every single time, apologies, you have to report that code. You must report it with the T36 through T50 code that caused it. So some common examples are gout codes. Gout codes are always based off of the location and as well as the drug-induced. So make certain whenever you're dealing with a patient with drug-induced gout, you make certain you put in the notes clearly what medicine caused it, following the tier if possible, so then that way your coders can then assign the proper code to it. Gout is a very difficult code to get paid for because gout is broken down by if it's idiopathic, drug-induced, or other conditions from it, and then it's also broken down by site. So if you don't tell us what caused the gout and also the location of the gout, it is going to cause a denial, more than likely. Just because then you end up with more or less a double unspecified code, where the site's unspecified and the cause is unspecified. So just remember whenever you're using drug-induced gout that you always report it. Diabetes is just a quick table on it. We're going to have a different video on diabetes that you can watch, but just remember you must always code first what caused the drug, what caused the diabetes. Just remember that you must always put what medicine caused the condition. That's how drug-induced reporting works, because if you're going to say a patient has one of these drug-induced conditions, the insurance and every reporting body is going to want to know what medicine caused that condition, because that's how we ended up having guidelines and stuff, where that way we can know what causes different complications for great reporting. So here are some common examples to help everyone out with this. Drug-induced constipation with GLP-1s is a very common side effect that you'll see these days, so you will report that with a K59.03, drug-induced constipation, and then this is kind of a gray area right now, so I'd love for providers to message AMA about it, but right now the best code to use for it is T38. Technically, it just says adverse effects of insulin and oral hypoglycemics, but honestly, I think it's quite a bit better of a code to use than an unspecified code. Otherwise, if you follow a table, you might see some resources direct you to a hypertension code, which makes absolutely no sense to me. So if you look up multiple guidelines, they will tell you this is the best code to use right now for GLP-1s. Drug-induced tremors due to Palmacort. Shout out to me. This is why I put this one in, because I think it's kind of a fun one and it's a good example. Whenever I go into my provider and I am dealing with my drug-induced tremor, this is how my medical records will look. It will be this T48 code for the anti-asthmatic meds that I took as a child, and then the G25.1 to indicate drug-induced tremor. It'll always be reported with the Sequela because it was from so long ago, but we have reporting guidelines like this, so that way we know in the future that asthmatic children shouldn't be on steroids for like 18 plus years in a row every single day. There are going to be consequences for it. Drug-induced chronic gout by lateral feet caused from LASIK. You would use the M1A code and then the location of where the gout is plus a T50. drug-induced obesity from, sorry, I don't really know how to say the meds well, you will report with the E66.1 plus the medicine code, and then you must always report obesity with a BMI code as well, because insurance always wants to know what that patient's current BMI status is. And finally, here's an example of drug-induced diabetes, where you will report it with the medicine that caused it each and every time. You will be using the Sequela version of this almost every single time, because obviously this is a lasting consequence from the med. Other than this Ozempic scenario, then you would probably be the A code, because it's probably currently happening that the patient is dealing with the constipation. Examples of when not to use these codes. A common issue where you'll see these codes being used is when people will prescribe Zoloft with any medicine that might cause nausea. Remember, in coding guidelines for outpatient, we can only code what is actually happening. Only definitive items can be coded. If it's anything that's just likely or suspected, possible to happen, probable, we cannot code that. So if you're just giving Zoloft because nausea is a likely side effect, do not code an R11 nausea code, and do not code a T36 through T50, right? It's T50? Yeah, T36 through T50 medicine code. Same thing with that constipation scenario in GLP-1s. If you're just putting a patient on Miralax just to preemptively make certain they don't get constipation, you will not code drug-induced constipation. You will only report these codes when it has actually happened. So just remember, drug-induced is for actively happening at the time of the encounter. So if we have a GLP-1 patient who comes 2 weeks later after getting initially diagnosed and they're complaining about constipation, now it is appropriate to use drug-induced constipation. If you have a patient who's been giving them medicine and they come back 2 weeks later complaining about nausea, now it is appropriate to use it. But just remember, we never code what is likely to happen in outpatient settings. Everything we're reporting is what actually happens. So finally, just a quick wrap up on it is just remember, whenever you're using any drug-induced code, make certain you document each and every time what drug caused it, so that way it can be properly reported. So that way you can make certain you don't have any denials. And that's drug-induced conditions for you. Thank you for watching another of my videos. Please like and subscribe if you like my content, and continue watching more of my videos. Thank you.